from 2017 to 2022. Took them from the edge of bankruptcy and 2 years declining sales from 10 to 60 million. Got them, they sold, the height of COVID for a great multiple. She made one of the biggest decisions she made was this, which sounds so silly. She looked at her sales team and said, here's the deal. I don't want to see a single opportunity in this pipeline that doesn't have a next step. And if it does, you better get in here and defend it.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where we don't just shoot for the stars. We calculate trajectory, wind speed, and ROI because, even astronauts need KPIs. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. How B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. What if the biggest bottleneck to your company's growth isn't your product or your team or even your market, but specifically your understanding of sales? Don't worry, you're not alone. Many CEOs, especially from the technical world, find themselves feeling a little bit like outsiders in their own sales departments, nodding along in sales meetings while secretly wondering, what on earth is a pipeline review? What do we do with that? But here's the thing, leading a sales team isn't just about hiring great people and hoping for the best. It's about mastering the art and science of sales strategy. Without a clear system in place, even the most talented teams can flounder, leaving your growth stuck in first gear when it could be roaring ahead. Today's episode is going to challenge you, enlighten you, and maybe make you laugh uncomfortably as we peel back the layers on one of the most misunderstood aspects of leadership: how to bridge the gap between the C-suite and the sales floor. It's not supposed to be a fight. We're going to bridge that gap. We'll explore a game-changing methodology that's already driven over $1 billion in revenue, uncover why your sales pipeline might secretly be a junk drawer of half-baked opportunities, and dive into the real reason accountability and metrics aren't just for your sales reps, they're for you too. So if you're ready to stop delegating sales as an afterthought and start leading like the growth driver it's meant to be, stick around. This conversation might just be the catalyst for your next big breakthrough. Our founder on Tuesday was Peter Loving, founder and CEO of User Active. Peter shared the secret of designing SaaS products that customers can't resist. From leveraging AI for smarter design to creating user-centered experiences to drive retention and revenue, episode is packed with actionable insights. You're definitely going to want to get that one if you haven't listened to it already. And then our expert guest last week, starting off the year, only my second repeat guest ever in history, Wes Bush, and we dove into the mechanics of product-led growth. Of course, Wes is the best-selling author of Product-Led Growth and the Product-Led Playbook, and an authority on this revolutionary approach, from building products that sell themselves to reshaping customer onboarding. Wes shared lots and lots of great insights that every founder needs to hear. And we went deep into a couple of different areas, and he talked about some things that he hasn't talked about anywhere else in this episode. So definitely grab that and give it a listen. It's a great way to start off the year. My guest today is Ken Lundin. Ken is the mastermind behind Rev Heat sales methodology and has helped companies scale from millions to hundreds of millions with precision and strategy. With decades of experience and a deep understanding of strategic selling, Ken empowers CEOs and technology leaders to overcome the challenges of leading high-performing sales teams. So today we'll dive deep into the disconnect between CEOs and their sales staff. He'll also share the secret to creating profitable and consistent growth and provides actionable insights to turn your sales pipeline into a powerhouse of efficiency and revenue generation. So if you are ready to redefine how you lead your sales team and grow your company, listen to Ken Lundin. Hey, Ken, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
It feels like it's been a long time coming, but man, I'm fired up to be here.
I am too. It's going to be a great conversation. Today is all about sales, and we're going to talk about the Rev Heat sales methodology, driven $1 billion in sales. That's a little bit.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
darn impressive. What are the key principles of Rev Heat and the methodology, and how is it different than a traditional sales approach?
I think probably the first thing we have to do is we just have to separate the idea of what most people think is a successful seller.
Hmm.
You've got CEOs and entrepreneurs out there, and Jeff, how many people have you talked to who have been like, look, I'm super excited because I hired this person who's been in my industry for 487 years, who has this really large book of
All the time.
business, and they're going to be great.
Right, right.
And then you talk to him 12 months later, and like, well, Johnny's not with us anymore.
Yeah, well, like, what happened?
And then they replay it over and over and over again. I don't know who originally came up with that idea of the definition of insanity, but man, they were
Yeah.
right.
Yes, yes. Another one that's real similar is we was a VP of sales at this company, super famous company, when they went from here to here. And so we're going to
Yeah.
bring them in. They're going to do the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because I think that also discounts the idea that you need different skill sets at different ages,
Yeah.
right? If you're going to be a professional in any sport, whether you're overseas and you're talking about football you play with your feet, or you're talking about football you play here in the United States, there's a different level of skill set that people stand out at and different things they're good at, from pee-wee to high school to
Yep.
college to the pros. And I think this actually goes into the broader problem and why so many companies struggle with growing sales. And that's they just don't understand. It's just super complicated. And they go, oh, I hired this VP of sales and they're going to do everything. Great.
Yeah.
Define everything.
The stuff, the
Yeah.
things,
The things,
the
all the
sales
things.
things.
Because you've talked to enough CEOs just like I have. And honestly, what most of them want to do, because let's think about who backs fast growing companies, right? The investors, the private equity, et cetera, they back these fast growing companies, but who are they backing? Technical founders,
Yep. Most of the
right?
time.
You got a business mind. Good luck. Make sure you get some technical people on your team because you're not getting the money. So you get the money, and now you've got a technical founder who has no appreciation for sales. And then they fell, kind of for this idea that they've never researched, but they just heard it and it sounds cool. Product led growth, and all they think is, yeah, let me make the coolest product in the world and it's going to sell itself.
Right, right. And that's the
But then
sad
they find out it's
reality.
not gonna.
Yeah, the best products don't win. There are so many great products out there that will never get any kind of traction because they're just not marketed well. Nobody knows about them. And until somebody knows about them, they can't buy them.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. I was talking with somebody that I work with and somebody who is a consultant for me, a contractor for me, Gianna Cambria, and she's with Upper Hand Social. And she said, look, Ken, there's a very big difference between being the best and being the best known.
Yes.
And the best known are the people who cash the big checks at the end of the day.
True.
Because you can tell if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're one of those, you're a founder, you're an entrepreneur, you've got a dream of building something in SaaS, and you want to build the best product on the planet, or you've already started to, and you're 3 to 5 years into your journey. I can tell you right now, if you're one of these people who really needs to listen to this thing really, really intently for the time that we're here, are you somebody who's always complaining that Joe's product and Billy's product and ABC's product just isn't as good as yours?
Happens a lot.
But somehow they must be they must be lying, right? They've got to be lying to everybody about their product well, no. We know in technology, users only use 10 to 15% of the total features. So why don't you just make them the ones they care about?
Yeah.
So I think kind of back to your original question. So if you remove that, which we basically distilled the method, or at least you and I have been smartasses about the idea that, having a good network and the art of sales isn't really how you build a company. So the way we do it at Rev Heat is we're very science-based, and that's systems, processes, and science. And that's, rough numbers. We think that's about 75% of the success of any company if you want to grow and scale it. The other 25% is the cool artsy stuff. That is Jeff is fantastic on the phone. He builds unbelievable relationships, and Jeff is the one who's going to blow quota out, and he's going to be at 400% of quota.
That's not
Jeff
scalable.
would have only been at 125 of quota if you didn't have the systems and processes in place.
Yeah. Systems and processes, 100% scalable. Personality and the other things, not really scalable. They can be learned.
They can be learned, and systems processes can be, and you can put them in a position where literally there's some really nice, easy hacks. Like if you want to reproduce things, have two people record their meeting and then stick it in Google Drive. Like there
Yeah.
are some simple things you can do to do that. But if you're looking at your sellers and you're like most organizations out there, and you've got Johnny or Jenny or whoever that's outperforming, but you just can't get anyone else to, and you don't understand what they do different. Well, I mean, you're in this position where you're not in a scalable place. And I can promise you, promoting Jenny is not going to have the effect you want. I mean, the Peter principle is a cliche for a reason. We promote people to their level of incompetence
Yeah.
and wonder why it didn't happen.
Yeah. And that's a different skill set too. Just like you said, different levels of the organization. A lot of times the best salespeople don't make the best sales managers because it's a different
Yeah.
skill set. It's a different mindset. It's just different people most of the time.
It's a different desire too.
It is.
Where do you get your will as a person? Me personally, I would rather lift a lot of people up. Right. I would rather see my work go to the market through lots of people. It's part of the reason we do what we do, right? Because I get to
Yeah.
do that with companies. I get to do that with dozens of teams at a time and those types of things. But you know what I think? We've done a disservice to most professions, but particularly sales. And that disservice is we put them in this position where we think, yeah, management is the next promotion,
Right.
right? You got to go from SDR to AE as fast as possible, which by the way, all the data and what I've always said, if you stay in at 18 months, you'll change the trajectory of your income over your entire career, but everybody's trying to get out of it 9.
Hmm.
And then if you're outperforming as an AE, we'll make you a senior AE as fast as possible. We're not going to change your comp, but what we're going to do, we're going to take more time out of your schedule so that you can mentor other people so you can't actually hit your number. Oh, and then from there, guess what? Congratulations. With no training, no coaching, you get to go try to get the same results that you delivered through other people, and no one's shown you how to actually duplicate what you do.
Yeah. Sales is rough. And I think we do that to ourselves a lot more than even just it's hard as it is, and we just make it harder.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So we do a lot of work with SaaS companies. We do a lot of work with professional services, IT consulting, where they have to bring in a pursuit team to support a salesperson, right? A highly technical sale. There's some integration that has to happen at the company they sell it to, those types of things. And so with that, over the last year, I just ran the numbers recently, about 60% of the people who went through our training were non-sellers by trade. 40% actually had the word sales in their title or some amalgamation of that, because somehow we're scared to call ourselves salespeople and CEOs hate salespeople. So therefore,
Right.
CEOs call them solutions consultants because we don't want to offend anybody. But here's the really interesting thing. Those non-sellers, the people who are scared to death to be seen as a used car salesman, and every time you say sales, they see the comb over and they're picturing that brown plaid tweed suit and the guy who wants to smoke a cigar and jam you into a Yugo. They sound the worst
Yeah.
because they're all just product, solve, solve, solve. Instead of the thing that we really got to get through to people. What's the problem that your product actually solves? What is it solving? It's not we print prettier PDFs.
Right.
Who's going to spend 50 grand on, PDFs that come out with a variety of better colors?
And nobody.
Yeah. But they will do it for better data that allows them to act faster, that can decrease risk, lower expenses, or increase revenue. So we got to get in their heads. And I think that's something that's missing in the world today. I would, I could get on this broad soapbox about how it's missing across all of the world, but I won't. But I do think we spend so much time trapped in our own mind and our own bodies and our own ideas. And this remote world has removed us from the kind of the interaction that we had where we had to learn how to actually socialize with people.
Yeah.
And now I call up Jeff. I'm like, hey, Jeff, I got this cool software. It'll really organize your contacts a little bit better. What you think about that? You're like, I don't need my contacts organized.
Yeah, it's not a real problem to be solved.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah. And we still feature dump. You know, and
Yeah.
here's the funny thing. It's so crazy. You know, I'm a little weathered, 53 years old. So I do remember back kind of AOL and pre AOL, when you could do the dial up, hit click to go to the next web page, go make yourself a sandwich, eat it, drink a beer, come back, and the web page still hadn't loaded.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was cool in those times was, like, as a seller or a company, you held all of the information, right? You had it all.
Yep.
And so you could just kind of feature dump. You could just pick and choose your spots. Now the research says they come in, 60 to 70% of the way through the buying process, which is a whole nother problem because we believe that stat.
Yeah.
Because I tell all of our teams, part of your job as a consultative salesperson and as a SaaS CEO, you've got to demand this of your people. Your problem is to try to figure out when they come to you and they've done this research and they've looked at you and they've looked at their competitors and they've hit send on that email, the contact form. Your number one job is to help them figure out if they're solving the right problem and if it's worth solving.
That's good.
I just think it's a way to change the scope,
Yeah.
I think it's, Zig Ziglar, I don't know, 174 years ago, it feels like. But Zig Ziglar back in the day, right? You get everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want.
Yep.
And we're so busy trying to take sometimes in corporate America the way we're selling. Maybe that's why we're not getting all the success we want.
Could be. So, do you think it's that CEOs don't necessarily understand the sales mechanics or what needs to happen in a sales process? And is it a knowledge gap? Is it an experience? Is it they just want to throw it over the fence and hope somebody else does it?
Yes, I know. I know. You're hoping for more than that. Yes. Well, as an example, one of the things we've been really successful with is I feel like the biggest gap in a company's success is the fact that the CEO does not understand almost anything about selling. And so even when you go and you hire a VP, you can't even have real conversations with them because you don't know how to talk in their language. Right. So I'm your average, 50 plus year old American because I only know one language. So it would do me zero good to hire a native speaker from any other country who doesn't also speak English. And CEOs and salespeople are speaking different languages. And so I don't think they know. And I think oftentimes, right, you've seen this. They're like, oh, we got all this potential. And then we kind of flatline. We got all this potential. Then we grew 10%. We got all this potential. And they're just worn out.
Yeah.
Tired. And so I think they just want to get it off their shoulders as quickly as possible. And they want it so bad that they're not really even willing to try to figure out why it didn't work the last 3 times they did it. And so that gap is a huge problem because I'm going through it with a couple clients, one client in specific right now where I'm trying to educate the CEO on, look, this is how you go about putting a sales plan in for the next year. These are the things you look at so you can do it metric based. And she's just befuddled. So yeah, I think that's a big piece of the puzzle is that the CEO doesn't even understand how to have it. And they don't understand the impact that one decision can make completely downstream. We had a CEO for a company called Big Nerd Ranch that we worked with from 2017 to 2022. Took them from the edge of bankruptcy and 2 years declining sales from 10 to 60 million. Got them, they sold, the height of COVID for a great multiple. She made one of the biggest decisions she made was this, which sounds so silly. She looked at her sales team and said, here's the deal. I don't want to see a single opportunity in this pipeline that doesn't have a next step. And if it does, you better get in here and defend it.
That's good.
That one, think about it though, Jeff. What else, if you were, What do you think the downstream impact of that is? Because somebody might be listening to us going, oh, okay, Ken. Yeah, right. They have a meeting. Great. But I mean, can you think about what the downstream impact of some of the other implications, some of the things that will help with a sales pipeline?
Oh, it's got to be huge. One, I mean, close rates would go up, and you're not wondering what's the next step because it's already listed there, and they've already figured it out. They're asking the question, they're asking for the next meeting, they're actually getting that. But even more than that is there's probably less pipeline stuffing. The things that are in the pipeline are probably more real. So again, it's going to affect your close rates all the way through. And the stuff that is not a real lead is going to get filtered out real quick because there isn't the next step.
Yeah. Yeah, it had all that. Pipeline actually improved. Sales cycle times came down. Win rates went through the roof. The pipeline was real. But that's the like, oh, just if you're running a company, come on. There's
You can
like
actually
three or
make
four things.
projections that are real,
Yeah.
based in reality.
Oh my god, are you kidding? Yeah, if you're swagging your pipeline for the next 90 days, then you need to study, talk to somebody, what I don't know what, but you need to do something because like we work with all of our companies, we say, look, here's the deal. You should be able to predict your next 90 days of sales within a 10% margin of error.
Yeah.
Period. We had some companies, Jeff. This was awesome. We had some companies who were so dialed in, and their pipeline, let's say their actual kind of sales cycle time was 9 months. It's a long sales cycle.
It is.
That in December of 2021, we weren't doing planning for 22, actually October. We were doing planning for 23. Because we actually had it in within a 10% margin of error for the year.
That's
Think about the
impressive.
decisions you could make.
And
Oh,
that's
it's awesome.
the great thing about that is if you're looking that far out and you're that accurate, not only can you make good projections, you can change the future.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at right now, if I'm looking at the end of the year, end of a quarter, and and I'm wondering, am I going to make the number? Am I not? Or find out we're not going to make the number, then it's too late. I can't
Yeah.
change it. But if I know about that 6 months in advance, 9 months in advance, we can change the future. We can actually make something happen now and not wait until it's too late.
Yeah, it's 100% true. And I'll deal with the naysayers real quick. So I'm going to preface one thing for that. There's two people out of the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to hear this, okay, that are thinking this right now. And what they're thinking is, you can't tell me who's going to close over the next 90 days. You're right. I didn't say that. I didn't say who. I said how much.
Yeah.
Because we've got the data and the math and the process in place.
It's all numbers.
It's sales math. Think about how cool it is if you know that your you do a qualification call. So in SaaS, as an example, there's a statistic that says if you're combining your qualification or your discovery call with a demo into one call, that you're already at a playing rate of losing 60% of those deals.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
so if you split those out as an example, think how cool this is. You split them out. So you have a discovery call. That discovery call does a great job setting up the demo. And if you know that your normal discovery call rate, as we set, the best SDR teams say 50 to 60% of those discoveries turn into opportunities. And let's say you're one of those and you know you're number 60. And then you dig in there in a second and you see, well, man, the number's 35 right now. Well, I know exactly where to apply pressure to get better.
Right.
And I think that's the part, like those are the little pieces that we can kind of take apart. They get really cool for people who are scared to death. Maybe they won't say they're scared, hate sales, don't like it, think it's distasteful, even though they want to grow a company. But those are little pieces. If we get you to see it, there's data that you can use to actually run your sales department.
Yeah. And it's no different than any other part of the business. Theory of constraints. You're looking at the numbers and hey, here's where the bottleneck is. Here's where my major constraint is in the sales process, and this is the thing I need to improve. And
Yeah.
if you do that, like you said on the discovery call at the beginning, now what you've done is you've increased every other one of those metrics along the way. And it's not just a small change; it's
Yeah.
a massive change in what you're going to do in revenue and on the back end.
It's unbelievable. I'll give you an example. So we have a client called Third and Grove. They're a website design agency out of Boston. Justin's a fantastic CEO owner, action driven. CEO came in, went through our 90-day sales accelerator training program by himself first. Then he brought his team in. His team came in. They were there for 90 days as well. So he'd been in the program about 6 months. They tripled their win rate on net new business. Now, here's the interesting part. They had 3 times the sales on the exact same dollar amount of leads that they had before.
Wow.
You want to talk about removing the constraints.
That's
Like,
huge.
that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. And the further upstream you can fix that and get that everything flowing through there well, that the impact is multiplied at every step.
And that's what you got to be looking for. Is it's small, James Clear in Atomic Habits says, trust the process,
Yeah.
and I firmly believe that, but you have to have somebody in who knows how to do the process. Like we talked before, we've made, we've kind of made light of some of the kind of mistakes that people make. And it's not because we don't think they're serious,
No,
right? It's not
I've made
because
them all.
yeah, that's a much longer podcast. If you want to sit down and talk about how I absolutely suck. I mean, well, we'll just get drinks. I mean, maybe we'll get a bottle. I mean, it'll be a long it'll be a long podcast. We'll call it, Ken's Wallows over bourbon or something. But like when you talk about that with like a VP of sales, one of the things you talked about or you put out as a shot across the bow was hiring that VP of sales from the big company.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about why that generally doesn't work when you're bringing somebody downstream and you don't have any infrastructure in place yet.
I mean, it's because every company is different. And 2, you don't know if they're the ones that actually deliver that success or if they happen to be in the right place at the right time, or if it was marketing or what kind of support they had. Was it a magic product that really did sell itself? That does happen occasionally.
Yeah.
And some of the companies that really go on those rocket rides, it's a combination of all of those together. And it's a magic moment and they just happen to be in the right place and take credit for all of it.
Yeah. I was on a messaging thread in LinkedIn with a guy by the name of Kevin Gaither, who's another sales consultant. And we were talking about that idea of, product sales, whatever. And one of his comments back to me was, yeah, I think if I was actually selling for Google, my opening line would have been, how much money would you like to write me a check for today?
Sure, why not?
Because you don't have that. And I think the other thing that gets missed, to expand on your point about hiring that VP of sales who's got the brand, right? They worked for Adobe, they worked for Salesforce, they worked for Microsoft, whoever it is. There's a difference between a sales manager comes in and can run a great playbook that already exists and being the person or the woman who has to build the playbook.
Yep.
It's a totally different set of skills. And so that's something you have to consider when you go out and hire people. And I can give people a hack here. Ask them what their process is to build it. Because if they can't define a detailed process across steps, they're not the person for your company.
Yeah.
Now, if you just want them to come in and do the thing, fine. But I'll give you one other cautionary tale. Don't hire a player coach. Please, please, please. Jeff and I say, don't hire player coaches. Don't hire player coaches. It's just not gonna work.
Yep. No, you're right about that. Ready to dominate your market and skyrocket your revenue? Dive into Small Fish Big Pond, delivering a world-class business that swims circles around competitors. This book is packed with powerful marketing and leadership insights guaranteed to transform your business and operate world class. Small Fish Big Pond delivers proven strategies to sharpen your marketing message, deliver unmatched value to your clients, and guide your prospects' buying journey to one inevitable conclusion: that your company is the only solution for them. Inside, you'll find step by step frameworks and time tested growth principles to attract your ideal clients, convert them, and then turn them into your passionate brand ambassadors. Grab your copy today in print, ebook, or audio at smallfishbigpond.com or on Amazon. Plus, remember, every book sale supports charity. All profits go there. Always have, always will. So dive in and make a difference. I think it's really good advice with the playbook. And playbooks are not 100% portable between companies either. So just because something was built and worked in one company doesn't mean you can just take that and port it over and drop it in. See that all the time. Well, here's the way we did it at this company, and then it didn't work here. Well,
Yeah.
why? They don't know because they didn't build it. They didn't
Yeah.
think about it. They just took
Yeah.
this must be the way that always works, and then it doesn't, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah, and it's we talk a lot about small companies get into this habit. I don't know if it's a habit. They're trying to hire the unicorn, right?
Yeah,
That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the unicorn, and except for a few consultants that I know, and that's just because we've worked across dozens and dozens and dozens of companies and done it over and over again. Finding a unicorn who can do all the things you want. They can build sales and hiring playbooks. They can build onboarding. They know how to do enablement. They can build sales processes from scratch. They know how to dig into the data. They know exactly how to guide an integration team to tell you exactly what your dashboard should look like, how long they should spend on it, and how they can dig deeper, and what the green, yellow, and red lights are. Probably should have just been exhausting for anyone to listen to me say that.
yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. And so I'm not saying don't go get a VP of sales. I'm just saying understand that you think it's a one person job, and most of the time it isn't.
That's absolutely true. Well, as CEOs are becoming more involved in sales, or they want to be, and understanding, improving the company's sales process, even if they don't have a background in sales, what are some ways that they can do that and really get up to speed and know, who to hire, if the sales process is working, what they should be paying attention to in that CEO role?
That's a great question because I think they ultimately need to do a few things. One of them is you just have to get your mindset right. I don't want to skip it. I know it's boring to say.
That's
You
true.
have to be okay being uncomfortable. You have to be cool with that. You have to be cool with not being the smartest person in your company based on a particular subject. Because everybody turns to you already for all the decisions, right? So
Yeah.
you got to be okay. And even if you do it not outside of the walls of your company, but you're figuring it out, first of all, you have to be okay to be humble. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is you really need to get educated on the idea of what consultative or strategic selling looks like because it's not what you think it is. And you can be a consultative or a strategic seller, and that person across the table, when they sign the $2 million check in order to get your stuff in, they don't think Jeff's a sales guy. They think Jeff's a value added partner who absolutely just crushed it and helped them see around corners that they didn't know existed. But the only way that they thought that about you is because you put the lens on that you were myopically focused on solving their problems, and in a way that you were okay to tell them you're not the one who should solve their problems. So we have to be client centric in a consultative and strategic fashion. And we have to do the one thing that nobody's doing these days. I don't know what happened, Jeff. Even if you're wrong, even if you don't fully understand everything, you've got to put in some accountability around some metrics
Yep.
because you can make no changes otherwise. And I can tell you right now that in just universally, I don't know what your experience is. I'd love to hear it. But I'm seeing that the lack of accountability from sales managers to sellers or from CEOs to leaders to sellers, I don't even know how else to say it other than I feel like it's at an all-time low.
I think you're right. Well, from a metric standpoint, not having that accountability is the difference, I think, between delegation and abdication. And
Yeah.
I've made that mistake before of just throwing it over the fence. Like they're the experts; they'll figure it out. And $20 million mistake later, they didn't figure it out, and I shouldn't have done that. There was no accountability. So really making sure that there is that accountability and delegating outcomes, and then if outcomes are not happening, digging in. What is that blocking and tackling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
What
hire
is going
somebody
wrong in
because you
there?
want somebody to blame when it doesn't go right. Because I'm going to bet
Hmm.
you that there's a certain subconscious thread that everybody's like, at least it won't be my fault.
But ultimately, as leaders, we're accountable. So even if it's not our fault, it's still our fault.
Well, and I think that's the thing that we get back to. I think that level of accountability, goes all the way up the chain. As an example, when we do an assessment, an audit when we first start with a client, and we go and test everybody against the 21 core selling competencies. It's based on the same stuff that we did the study on I talked about. And what's really interesting is one of the things that we're actually looking at is the responsibility rating.
Hmm.
And what it's
Yeah.
really determining is it's saying if you don't hit your number, if you're not successful, whose fault is it? And so we basically break it down. There's four choices. It's my fault, right? It's my company's fault. It's the competitor's fault, or it's something in general going on in the economic landscape or something outside of my control. And what we typically see is if you have less than a 50% responsibility rating, that means you tend to blame other people or other things for your lack of success. So we're seeing it in sales, we're seeing it in sales leadership. But one of the things we always teach people that try to reverse this, it's because you as leadership are empowering them to make excuses,
Hmm.
right? Like,
We get what
oh,
we settle for. We
yeah,
get what we
Susie, I know that you
tolerate.
didn't get the CRM updated on Friday. That's cool. Can you do it whenever you can? Oh, Johnny, I know that you were supposed to deliver this to the technical team so they could put the proposal together on Thursday. Can you just get it done by Tuesday? I just say, lead your team by example. Let them
You
judge you
give
by your walk.
Giving them the ability to make excuses. And when the problem is out there and it's somebody else, then they're not accountable. They can't fix it, even if they wanted to, because it's out there. But if the problem is, if they own it, they really have that accountability, even self accountability. They're the ones that can actually affect that outcome, and that's really what you want is those that
Yeah.
want that accountability, that want that responsibility, that own the problem and are looking for solutions, not looking to point fingers somewhere else that it's something else. I didn't hit my number because
Yeah.
of whatever that other thing was.
Yeah. We had a client who came to me after they lost a $2 million deal. And they came to me, and the whole team had come to the consensus, oh, they could never afford us anyway. It was out of their price range. I said, huh. Talked with him a little bit, and he goes, okay, I see what you're doing. And I go, what do you mean, Justin? And he says, was it that their price in their minds was too low, or that we never established the actual value we bring for the number? I said, yeah, I mean, the truth is it could have been either, but which one can you actually affect?
Right.
Because that's what we focus on. I'll tell people all the time, you can have the world's greatest run discovery call. It can follow the format and you can get so much juice, and it goes nowhere.
Yep.
You know the world's worst discovery call, and it can turn into $1 million opportunity down the road. So the point is, let's just prepare to always play at our best
Yep.
and do the things we can affect. And that goes all the way up, because I think CEOs need to show that, right? What do a lot of CEOs, what do a lot of executives do now? Hey, can I get that to you by Friday? That'd be great, boss. Johnny, I'm sorry, it's Friday at 5. Look, I'm going to try to get to it this weekend. It's Monday. Johnny, it's on my list. You know what they're doing? They're watching your walk, and they're just
Yep.
trying to copy it.
And that same thing happens in culture. And that the same, we get what we tolerate. And
Yeah.
that's with ourselves as well as with our people.
Yeah. And so I think, we've talked a lot about things that are outside of the direct impact of, hey, how do you sell? How do you talk? How do you do the thing? But it's because there is so much more to it. Like when we do the 21 core selling competencies, it's 3 buckets. And think about like an athlete. We are judging their mindset, we're judging their grit to do the job, and then we're judging their tactical competencies. So we're basically saying, are you smart enough to play the sport? Do you have enough grit to show up and do it every day? And can you dribble the basketball? Can you put it between your legs? And can you run fast enough? Because it isn't just about showing them something. Because what's the other mistake that we make? I'm going to bring in a trainer for a day. We're going to train you guys up. Like, the Effingham forgetting curve says they're going to forget 77% of it in 6 days.
Right.
How about this? One of two things. We'll put it in the show notes. You can wire me the money that you were going to waste on somebody else, or don't show anybody else because I think it's still against the law. Or you can just set that stuff on fire. I will. That's another one too. So we got the one where we talk all about how all the bad decisions you and I have made, right? And then we have the other one where we continue to go downstream and we start to talk about all the mistakes that we make spending money in business.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds about right. So what did you say? A bourbon chat? Was that
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, depending on what it is. I mean, we might do it all as a runaway, and then I don't know how coherent we'll be at the end, but it'll be fun.
That's funny. Well, we definitely need structure in sales, and in creating a sales playbook, what are the essential elements that every SaaS sales playbook should include?
Yeah. I think what's great is that you need to have, when you talk about a SaaS playbook, so at a minimum, let's just talk at a minimum, you want to create some scalability and predictability in what you're doing. So at a minimum, you have to identify the sales process itself, right? But understand the sales process is not the method. So we talk about sales process and methodology. The process is the roadmap, right? I have to know if I'm in Los Angeles heading to New York or if I'm in Orlando because they're two completely different routes.
Yep.
Right. The methodology, though, is how we choose to get there. Did I fly? Did I drive? Did I take a bike? Did I decide to Forrest Gump it and run across the country? So what we want to do is take your sales process and then apply some method to it. So within that, as an example, we actually want to have, what does it take to qualify to move into each stage? Or what does it take to qualify to move out of each stage? Those metrics or those types of things, right? As an example, you could go really old school and you could go, well, to go from a qualification call to actually be qualified as a sales opportunity where our SDR gets paid and where it turns into an opportunity in our CRM, they have to meet 2 of 4 of the criteria band: budget, authority, need, or timeline. And then you establish the timeline. Okay, well, that's one. Well, then what has to happen in the discovery call? Well, we put a framework in there, and that's got to be developed out further. And so you have to develop the criteria to move them through. So that's one. How does a deal get more qualified in each piece of the stage? 2, you have to have some sort of framework or expectation about what the actual conversations look like. I think the thing I see wrong in most sales playbooks and why they end up just, sitting in a file or on a corner of a desk doesn't tell Jane how to actually hold the conversation.
Yeah.
It doesn't require Jane to say, well, we're going to start with an agenda and we're going to do this to get alignment. And we're going to do these things. And so I think those are some of the things that we really have to be aware of is, what does the conversation look like? And if you don't know now, get some cheap. There's tons of AI. We'll record your calls. We use Fathom because I can get one of it for free and it's fantastic. But there's 1,000 of them out there.
Yep.
Record a call and get the transcript and the summary. Have it break it into pieces for you and see what you like or you don't like. And so that's the other thing. We got to put words to the thing. And then the kind of the last component to really oversimplify this idea is you have to make sure that as a deal gets deeper, that you're clarifying one specific thing. Who gets a proposal and when?
Yep.
Because in SaaS, man, we run to it. Oh, yeah, Johnny had a heartbeat and Johnny didn't hang up on me and it's cool. So here it comes, decision documents. I'm sending them an SOW. So you really have to do that because the qualification component is something that's really missing in sales right now. And I would tell you, and I would challenge you maybe to just flip the script on that and maybe it'll help you. I look at all of those calls as disqualification calls. I'm trying to understand why we don't make sense for them, why they're not ready for us, why their problem is some other problem that I can't help with. Because sometimes when you use the word qualify, the intention is, oh, we're trying to qualify them into the pipeline. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, sort of. So I think those are if you think about it, those are kind of the four primary things from a framework perspective that you want to make sure you have in a sales playbook. What did I miss that you would put in?
I think that's really good. Just I love having the steps in between. That every step is there for a reason. It needs to be structured, and that's how you get consistency and predictable revenue.
Yeah.
Is you have a process that's followed and moving from step to step. So I think you really hit the core pieces that need to be there, and the disqualification, that's a big one. Not wishing deals to be done,
Yeah.
not wishing them to the next step, but really looking at it critically and what is it that they really need. And
Yeah.
like you said earlier, breaking the discovery and the demo into separate parts, absolutely critical, because if you don't do that, what are you demoing? Unless there are some people that are really good and they can hear it and they can go, okay, here are the
Yeah.
top three things we're going to cover, in 5 minutes, and then jump right in and do it. But that's a rarity. That's your unicorn.
Yeah.
Most people need to go and really understand what that is and then create the demo and think about what is that flow going to look like and how do I show them how to solve those problems, and hopefully uncover a few more in that discovery call instead of just those surface level things. They're going to say, we're looking for this, this, and this. Why? And you go a level deeper, and why? And you go a level deeper, and you start uncovering some real issues that you can help solve with the demo.
Yes, I think that's fantastic. And with that, I would say the other thing I would add to this front end here, because one of the things you said earlier, we were talking about pipeline. And if you solve, say, something at the beginning, how it just has this exponential effect all the way through to sales. And I would say this, if you don't have your discovery call and your demo at a minimum scripted appropriately and being client centric and asking questions, I can tell you right now, fix those two things, you'll change the trajectory of your business.
Yes.
But you got to know when you need to do it. And most companies do, because your demo deck is probably 38 slides for a 22-minute meeting. That's
Most of
not the
them
way
are.
we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're probably, if your team is showing them the sign on screen, you're wasting a second, because I think in today's day and age, we all figure we'll probably get a sign in.
Yeah. We all know how to log in. We assume that's, we're going to be
Yeah.
able to do that.
Yeah.
So let's just get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And the other kind of tip there, just kind of love this stuff, is kind of NLP it, right? It's neuro-linguistic programming, says we remember the thing at the front and the thing at the back best.
Yeah.
So here's what we want to do. Do not front end load you, front end load questions about them, because then they're going to remember you care about them and you were solving their problems. And the other thing, do not end with, do you have any questions? Because that's the thing they remember, and that's going to be flat.
Yes.
Put you and your company in the middle. It's credibility. I get it. Everybody loves their company. Everyone wants to talk about the logos they did business with. But construct it intentionally. What do I want my prospects' takeaway to be from this? Like a discovery call. The number one takeaway I try to get to, I want them to have hope that we've identified a problem that we might be able to help them solve.
That's good. That is really, really good. Where can people learn more about you and about Rev Heat online?
Pretty simple, right? So revheat.com, it is under a little bit of a makeover. So I will tell you that you'll be seeing that'll be coming soon. So dial in and then look at it again in a week, and it's probably going to be the new stuff. So that's first. Second is, we post an absolute ton of stuff on LinkedIn. You can follow me, and I'd really appreciate it if you would mention that you saw Jeff and I here talking on SaaS Fuel, because that's always awesome. And when people do that, guess what? I'm really tempted most of the time to say, hey, you just want to chat for 30 minutes? You can pick my brain.
That's great.
So kind of subtly put that out there. Last, go to drivingtraction.com. At drivingtraction.com, what that'll do is that'll actually get you to my book. So we have a book called Strategic Selling Unleashed, which Jeff mentioned in the opener. It's the sales methodology you've never heard of, but it's still done over $1 billion in sales. It's objective and it's prescriptive. And I'm biased, but it crushes it. So I'll get you a free copy of that book. Otherwise, you can go, buy it at Amazon. But that's what I would tell you, because you can put that work to work tomorrow.
Absolutely. So good. So good. Really appreciate the conversation. A lot of value today. Thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
All right. I'm so glad you had me here. And it sounds like we've got a few more to do. So everybody stay tuned.
Thanks again, Ken, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources. You can learn more about Ken and Rev Heat at revheat.com. And be sure to pick up a copy of his book as well, Strategic Selling Unleashed. Really, really good. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel as well. It's at Champion Leadership. And we've got training, shorts, outtakes, full episodes, everything you want over there at Champion Leadership on YouTube. Thought leaders share. I bet you're one of those. Share this episode with anyone who's ever said, I've got $1 million idea, and then forgot what it was. Who else had that experience? Well, everyone who shares this week gets lifetime access to Sockify. It's the SaaS platform that uses machine learning to pair your socks. Because, even your laundry deserves disruptive innovation. Wouldn't that be a great app? You never lose a sock again. Sockify. There we go. You ever wondered how technology could revolutionize the way we assess human movement? Well, on our founder episode next Tuesday, we're joined by Andrew Mentor, a leader in fitness technology and the founder of Fizmodo. Andrew's journey is a true testament to resilience and innovation. Make sure to tune in to hear more about his incredible journey and the future of technology. Ever wondered what it takes to scale profit and impact for some of the leading companies across industries? Well, next week on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series, we have a true pioneer in the marketing world. Casey Stanton, the founder of CMO X, Chief Marketing Officer X. Casey has worked with hundreds of businesses to help them find their perfect CMO match and has taught marketers how to step into high-impact strategic roles as fractional chief marketing officers. You won't want to miss this conversation. So come back for an insightful episode that could transform the way you think about your marketing leadership. I will see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.